The bakery in Brooklyn _ Akwasi wiped the sweat from his brow as he expertly flipped a batch of golden brown peanut cookies in the small kitchen of his Brooklyn apartment. The aroma of ground peanuts and sugar filled the air, transporting him back to his grandmother's kitchen in Accra. He had always loved helping her make groundnut cakes for special occasions, and now, years later, he was determined to share that taste with his new community in New York. The timer beeped, and Akwasi carefully slid the cookies onto a rack to cool. He had a small operation going, selling his Ghanaian treats at local farmers' markets and to friends. But his dream was bigger: to open a bakery that brought traditional Ghanaian flavors to Brooklyn's diverse streets. Problem was, his savings were dwindling, and banks weren't keen on lending to a small immigrant-owned business. Akwasi sighed, frustration creeping in. Was it crazy to think he could make it in this big, fast city? That evening, walking home from a tough meeting with a potential investor, Akwasi stumbled upon a flyer for Brooklyn's biggest food festival. "Showcase your food, grow your business," it read. A spark lit in his mind. This could be his chance. Smiling face with smiling eyes, Akwasi rushed home, his mind racing with ideas. He spent the night perfecting recipes and planning his stall for the festival. He'd make a Ghanaian twist on classics: peanut butter cookies, banana bread with plantain, and maybe some groundnut soup bites. The day of the festival arrived, and Akwasi's nerves were on edge. His small stall, Akwasi's Ghanaian Bites, was ready, but would people come? The crowd swirled around him, sampling foods from all over the world. Akwasi took a deep breath and offered a plate of his peanut cookies to a passing couple. The woman took a bite, her eyes widening. "Wow, this is amazing. So nutty and rich," she said. Her friend, a food blogger, asked to take a photo for her Instagram. Suddenly, people were flocking to Akwasi's stall. By the end of the day, he'd sold out, and had contacts from local cafes wanting to stock his treats. As he packed up, Akwasi felt a tap on his shoulder. A woman introduced herself as Maya, a food distributor. "I love your story and your food. Let's talk about making your bakery dreams happen." Akwasi grinned, his heart full. Maybe Brooklyn wasn't so big after all. Maya turned out to be a game-changer. She connected Akwasi with a small commercial kitchen space in a Brooklyn neighborhood with a lot of Ghanaian and Nigerian shops. Rent was affordable, and the owners were willing to give him a chance. With Maya's help, Akwasi applied for a small business grant, and got it. He used the funds to fix up the kitchen, buy equipment, and start producing his treats wholesale. Within months, Akwasi's Ghanaian Bites was in cafes and shops across Brooklyn. People loved the familiar flavors of Ghana, and Akwasi loved introducing them to new friends. One day, a Ghanaian family came into one of the cafes stocking his treats. The mom tried a plantain bread and teared up. "This takes me back to my childhood in Accra," she said, smiling at Akwasi. Akwasi's phone buzzed. It was his grandmother in Ghana, calling to say she'd heard about his success on Facebook. "Keep sharing our flavors with the world, Akwasi," she said. The bakery grew, but Akwasi never forgot where he came from. He hired local Ghanaians, taught them his craft, and kept innovating, like making a vegan version of groundnut soup bites for a big health food store chain. Akwasi's story spread: immigrant dreams, hard work, and a taste of home. Smiling face with smiling eyes. The demand for Akwasi's treats kept growing. He started getting orders from bigger retailers in New York, and even landed a spot at a major food expo in LA. Akwasi was nervous but thrilled to showcase his Ghanaian flavors on a bigger stage. Back in Brooklyn, Akwasi's bakery became a hub for the local Ghanaian community. They'd gather for Sunday brunches with jollof rice cakes and plantain tarts. Akwasi loved sharing his success. He'd teach kids how to make groundnut cookies, passing on the traditions his grandmother had taught him. One evening, as he was closing up, a young Ghanaian woman walked in, looking unsure. Akwasi's bakery was written above the door. She smiled. "I came to Brooklyn chasing a dream like yours. I want to start a Ghanaian clothing line here." Akwasi listened, remembering his own doubts years ago. He offered her space in the bakery to showcase her clothes, and they started a Ghana Meets Brooklyn event: food, fashion, music. It became a hit. Akwasi's phone buzzed again. A big American food magazine wanted to feature his story and bakery. As he posed for photos, he thought, this is what it means to make it big: lifting others, sharing your roots. The bakery's sign now read Akwasi's Ghanaian Bites, Brooklyn, New York in bold letters. And in Accra, his grandmother smiled, knowing he'd done something special. The magazine feature dropped, and Akwasi's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Orders poured in from all over the US, and even a few from Ghana. He hired more staff, Ghanaians and locals alike, and expanded the bakery's menu. One day, Akwasi got an email from the U.S. Department of State's Arts and Culture program. They wanted him to represent Ghanaian culture at a global food diplomacy event in Washington, D.C. Akwasi's eyes widened. He'd never been to D.C. Akwasi decided to bring his grandmother to D.C. with him. She'd never flown before, and he'd show her America while sharing his journey. At the event, Akwasi's treat stole the show. Diplomats and foodies loved the groundnut soup bites. The highlight? Akwasi's grandmother gave an impromptu speech in Twi, sharing Ghanaian food traditions. The crowd erupted in applause. Back in Brooklyn, Akwasi's bakery kept thriving. He started a Ghanaian cookbook project with local chefs. And at night, he'd look at photos of his Ghana DC trip, smiling at the journey. Akwasi's story was now on a bigger map: Ghana to Brooklyn to the world. What next? Smiling face with smiling eyes. The cookbook _Ghanaian flavors in Brooklyn _ became a surprise hit, landing on Amazon's bestsellers list. Akwasi did book signings in Accra and New York, sharing stories of food and heritage. Akwasi's phone rang. A big hotel chain in Dubai wanted him to open a Ghanaian restaurant there. He laughed. How does one go from Brooklyn to Dubai? Smiling face with smiling eyes. He flew to Dubai, checked out the spot, and said yes. The restaurant _Ghana Meets Gulf _ blended West African flavors with Middle Eastern vibes. It was a hit with expats and locals. Akwasi divided time between Brooklyn, Accra, and Dubai now. He funded a bakery training program in Ghana for young entrepreneurs. Pay it forward, he'd say. At a food festival in Dubai, Akwasi met a young Somali chef. Your food bridges cultures, she said. Akwasi smiled. Maybe that's what he'd built: bridges, through bites. Akwasi's journey kept unfolding. What's next? The world, maybe globe, showing Europe, Africa. The Dubai restaurant led to more global projects. Akwasi partnered with a tech startup in Nairobi to launch a food delivery app focused on African cuisine, Taste Continent. It took off in several countries. Akwasi got a call from Ghana's government. They wanted him to help promote Ghanaian food at a big tourism expo. He flew back to Accra, proud to represent home. At the expo, Akwasi's demos drew crowds. This is how we eat in Brooklyn, with a Ghana twist, he'd say, serving jollof rice tacos. Locals loved it, tourists loved it. Akwasi took a walk through Accra's markets with his grandmother afterward. You've done well, boy, she said, squeezing his hand. In Brooklyn, his team kept innovating, like vegan fufu bites for a health food trend. Dubai expanded to a bigger location. Nairobi app hit 1 million downloads. Akwasi looked at photos of it all, scattered on his desk: Ghana, Brooklyn, Dubai, Nairobi. He smiled. Food connects globe, showing Europe, Africa. One evening, Akwasi sat with his grandmother in Accra, eating groundnuts. What's next? She asked. Akwasi grinned. More bridges, Nana, smiling face with smiling eyes. The Taste Continent app expanded to Europe. Akwasi showed his grandmother. She nodded. The world is eating. In Accra, Akwasi started a food festival, Taste Ghana, celebrating local chefs and street food. It drew foodies from Africa and beyond. Akwasi flew to Paris for Taste Continent's launch. At a packed event, he said, food doesn't need borders. The crowd cheered. Back in Brooklyn, a documentary crew wanted Akwasi's story. From Accra to the World, they titled it. Akwasi's grandmother passed away a month later. At her funeral in Accra, friends and partners came from 3 continents. They shared food, stories. Akwasi spoke, voice cracking. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for part 2 of this interesting story and many other interesting stories as well.